Algarana stuff. Today is the 2nd of March, and warning, disclaimer, Ron's going to be talking head today, more than a normal talking head. And you do see I have a new image in the background, and this is a vid I actually got it to sort of play. It's working well. It's well enough for me. I'm still hassling this problem. Okay, but I'm delaying. The subject today is Trump and Ukraine. And there's been a lot. I didn't watch it live, but I saw some video clips and the news about it, and I read about it. It's everywhere. And I was going to talk about it, and I don't. I think it's better to talk about things than to bottle them up, or, everything, nothing is black and white. That's a starting place for me. Nothing is black and white. It's complex. It's physics continuum. It's a vibrating, changing dynamic all the time. And Trump and Ukraine. I got to say this about Trump, and it should never have happened in public. But what it did do is it shows exactly what America has been doing since probably 9/11. What Trump did was put a face on American political policy, foreign policy. That he epitomizes what we've been doing behind closed doors in those diplomatic decorum sort of environments and settings. We've been doing that since 9/11. We were actually started doing it after World War II, just like the Soviets did. The areas that we freed, we immediately made them you're going to have a military base here. We told them, we're going to be here forever. South Korea, we have like 50,000 troops stationed relatively close up to the DMZ, and we have had them there since the Korean War. And that was part of the deal. We supported that was a NATO effort for South Korea. The Korean War was a NATO effort. We weren't the only ones fighting there, but anyway, what Trump did was put what you saw is way our foreign policy has been working for a long, long time. And there was a book, I think it came out in the 60s, 70s, called The Ugly American. And it dealt with our foreign policy, how we dealt with the rest of the world. And what Trump appeared on his visit when the Ukrainian minister came here to sign the minerals deal, what you saw from Trump and Vance was the true non-hidden face of American foreign policy. At one time when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, we supplied the Taliban with rocket launchers, machine guns, weaponry of all sorts to defeat the Soviets. The Soviets are an enemy. They've always been an enemy. Our foreign policy is based on having enemies. The Chinese have appeared in the last 10, 15 years. Once they got the economics going, they're now an enemy. Japan during World War II, they became a powerhouse economically and so on, and militarily, and they became an enemy. What you saw was American foreign policy in its ugliest but real form. It's how we treat everybody in the world. In Africa, we make various deals with countries that you don't even know the names of, and we put drone airfields there so we can support our terrorist elimination policy anywhere in the world. It wasn't long after Trump took office that he did some drone strikes in Somalia against Somali pirates. I don't know the justification for it, but George Bush, in his foreign policy, after 9/11, he basically told the world that there's no boundaries for terrorists. You may have a country, you may think that you're United Kingdom or the Democratic of Congo or South Africa or Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, whoever you may think you are. Terrorists have no boundaries, and we're going to go after them wherever they are. And sometimes we talk to the country involved and we say, look, we're going to take this guy out. And sometimes we don't. And we take them out anyway. That has been our foreign policy for a long time, and the ugly American. And why do you think the world hates us so much? Because of our foreign policy. We have been the bully. If Russia is a bully, everybody says they're a bully. They're the ones who invaded Ukraine. They're the bully, okay? Well, we're also a bully. We have been a bully. You do it our way or you don't get any money. That's the American way. It's always about money. So Trump's doing that now with states and policy. If you don't do this, then you don't get the money that we normally give you for your schools, Department of Education. If they overreached with their DEI strings that they attach to money, he's now chopped that off and replaced it with something else. But it's basically still a string manipulating whoever he's giving it to a certain will. We've done the same thing we give money all around the world, and you say, well, foreign aid, the Agency for International Aid or whatever. It is true that there is some good stuff that's done by those people, for sure. I'm totally in agreement that the United Nations needs a World Health Organization. That should be one of their major roles is world health. They can keep track of and rapidly respond to pandemic sort of outbreaks like Ebola in South Africa or measles in South America or COVID. That's what they should be doing. I think we need to fund them. Trump says we don't. What he's really saying in all these cases is, we've been the piggy bank for a lot of stuff. Nobody else was contributing their share. The idea was like, the wealthiest countries, it's like the rich pay their fair share. Well, the world has that view of America. The world has a view that the Americans are so rich that they ought to pay their fair share, which is way more than any other country. And Trump is saying, no. Same way with NATO. When he threatened to pull out of NATO, it's because they weren't keeping up their end of the bargain. They weren't spending any money in their own defense. They were relying on our spending money, which we have to borrow, to keep our defense preparedness up. So if something happened in Europe, we could defend Lithuania and Spain and Italy and Germany and whoever else is in NATO. I don't know. What you saw with Trump is the raw, terrible, ugly face of the American foreign policy. You say, well, that's not true. It is true. Yes, through various organizations like World Health Organization and through Red Cross and through various other groups, it is good. There are good things done around the world. Hunger is a real terrible problem in some certain parts of Ethiopia. Has been battling the hunger issue and starvation for as long as I can remember. There are lapses of it where it's not particularly a common news item, but it doesn't mean it's gone away. In fact, some of those countries in Africa, they are so dictatorship bound, they've decided to pull out of the World Health Organization because they don't want the World Health Organization people coming to those countries and like spying on them. Well, how is the welfare of the people in this country? Not very good. The nutrition level is terrible. The vaccination rate is terrible. They don't know anything about birth control. Blah, 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 blah. They don't want those people coming in and seeing that because, according to the powers that be, it's disrespectful to the country. Do you hear that term recently? Disrespectable? Respectable? Ukraine, the president of Ukraine was being disrespectful to the United States. Trump didn't even like that he hadn't dressed up and worn a suit. You know, this is the ugly American. No, you and I didn't do it. We should take no blame. That's not true. It's true because you keep electing that same guy to Congress, or that same woman to the Senate, or man to the Senate, and you don't make enough noise about, wait a minute. You don't do, wait a minute. And you leave it. Foreign policy is complicated. I'm not saying it isn't. In the case of the Ukraine and Russia, it is a complicated situation. What's the complication? Russia has nukes. Okay? Let me explain something to you. You probably already know this, but nukes mean one thing. They mean two different things. One is instant. If you're living in Europe, by the time your radar picks up a ballistic missile, you're gone. There is no flight time. It's almost instantaneous. There's no counter-strike located in any European country probably doesn't have a chance in hell. A surprise nuclear attack by anybody would not, it would probably take out all the counterattack capability almost instantly. I'm talking a couple minutes maybe, flight time altogether. That's not true with America. We're isolated enough from Russia and from China and actually from North Korea that our radar will pick up those things and we could do something about it. Doesn't mean it still wouldn't be hard time. We can do something about it. But back to Ukraine and Russia, NATO, their flight time from the Soviet Union, or a Soviet Union puppet state that has nukes in it now, which there are several. Putin changed the policy on that. At one time, there were no nukes in any of the puppet states like East Germany. As far as I know, there weren't. They had plenty of military there, but they did not have nukes. Now, another issue related to Ukraine, partly because NATO, I mean, you know, the threat is really a whole lot bigger to them than us. And that's what Trump's been saying. You guys need to take the stage here. You're more impacted by what Putin is doing than we are. If you're so keen on you know, and nobody disagrees, you know, maybe Putin is a terrible, terrible guy, and he's going to, once he took all of Ukraine, he would take all of Spain or Italy or some such other place. And it's kind of like Hitler in World War II. If you don't stop him here, if we don't stop him, who's going to stop him? Well, I think Trump is saying, it's not us. It should be NATO. It should be you guys that have the military strength there enough right there who shows Putin, no, you don't mess with us. Ukraine was a relatively weak military nation. Putin honestly thought he was just going to roll in there, and within a couple days, even a week, before anybody had a chance to respond, he would have the capital, and that would be the end of the whole story. I really think that was what he had in his mind, which was an extreme exaggeration of the current readiness state of the Russian army, which is really not a surprise because after the breakup of the Soviet Union, everything went to shit Soviet Union. The military went to shit. They were corrupt generals, colonels who sold off this and that to any buyer they could get. Nobody was paying any attention to the stockpile, the inventory. Submarines were rusting away up in some Baltic port someplace in Russia. It didn't really improve. Putin, he was more interested in economics and his, fancy dancy whatever. The Ukrainian thing goes back a ways. This is not a straightforward issue. If you don't know foreign policy, and I'm not claiming I do, I'm just saying it's a complicated problem. And I'm not going to diminish the ugly face that Trump showed. And that should have been behind closed doors, not in the public. But it did have this aspect to it. It certainly tells the world in a very demonstrative way how we deal with things. You can go in a back room and know you've been doing the same thing in a back room, but nobody knew about it except the parties involved, and they weren't going to talk about it. Now it's in the news, and it has that sort of effect. He very clearly made it, I think, clear to the world that American interests are coming first. Underneath of all that stuff he said, I have to give him that. American interests come first. Well, what are our interests? That's the same concept of, well, if we don't do something about Hillary, he's going to take up all over Europe. We did not enter World War II in Europe for a long time. We didn't jump right over there. In 1941, when Pearl Harbor got attacked, did we send we sent aid just like we did to Ukraine, but we didn't engage a whole lot of forces over there. We didn't ramp our army up. We didn't even enter the war over there till 1944. The Russians took the brunt of winning World War II. We got it wrong. If you think we won, the Russians lost 50 million people fighting World War II. Germany invaded Russia and went all the way up to Stalingrad, and the Russians eventually pushed them all the way back and even went into Berlin. They're the ones who did the brunt of the death, the dying associated with World War II. We came out smelling like roses. Big victory us. That's not true. In the Pacific War, Americans did take the brunt of that. That is for true. There were other forces fighting there. I'm not saying there weren't. But that was really an American against the Japanese battle in the Pacific. Not true in Europe. The Russians, 15 million Russians got killed during that war. If you've ever watched any of the war movies that came out of Russia about World War II, you'll see the carnage and horror. Okay. I'm probably losing my way, but what I'm saying is that the ugly face of American foreign policy that Trump showed you is, we have the big superpowers. When the Soviet Union was still in existence, the United Soviet Socialist Republic, the USSR was still in existence. They had the same ugly foreign policy face. The Chinese have the same foreign policy ugly face. They don't do anything if they're not going to get something out of it. I thought Putin was stupid when he invaded Ukraine. The Chinese model makes way more sense, and to some extent, our model makes way more sense. When we have a conflict with somebody or another over some or other, basically the conflict is they're not doing what we want them to do. That's the bully in the room says, hey, we're the big bad wolf here, and you need to do what we're doing and what you want us to do. And countries who don't follow that get sanctioned, get embargoed, get all kind of stuff. We use all sorts of persuaders to get them to see our point of view on it. Oh, you want money for starving kids in Ethiopia? We can arrange that. But we also need a CIA safe site here so we can hold some of the Somali pirates that we capture in our illegal drone strikes in Somalia, a separate country. We need to keep them somewhere, so we're going to set up a prison in your country, but we'll give you the money you need. Chinese have been doing this for a long time. They do it the right way. They don't necessarily do a land war. They certainly supported North Korea during the Korean War. There were Chinese actually fighting in that war. But they've gotten smarter about it. They got a lot of money. The free trade in the world gave the Chinese government lots and lots and lots of money. Okay, they're not stupid. Underdeveloped countries in the world need money. They want to grow. They want to be prosperous. They want to be like, people you see on TV. They now have TVs. They can see people in London driving cars around, and they have refrigerators and big screen TVs, and kids go to school every day, and if people are not begging on the street, most places just have a meal. And they want to be like that. Any country in the world, they want to be like that. And the Chinese say, I can help you with that. I will, here, you need some more better road system. It starts off with telecommunications and infrastructure. You got to have infrastructure for any kind of economic development. You got to have road systems. You have to have telecommunications. Okay. The Chinese say, well, we'll come and help you with that. We'll design it all out. We'll figure it all out for you. We'll give you the money to do it, and we'll put some of our people in to manage the whole thing. Okay. They loan whatever it is, $3 billion to Botswana. Okay. And they do what they say. They help with the infrastructure and so on. Now, Botswana comes up on a loan payment. The infrastructure hadn't been in place long enough for it to have had a true economic improvement of the overall country. So Botswana can't pay the money back. So the loan has to be renegotiated. And the Chinese go, well, yeah, okay, well, in that case, we need this from you. You have lithium here, and if you just, we'll let one of our companies come in and start mining your lithium. That's fine. We'll extend the terms of our economic agreement with you, and whoever it is, Rhodesia, whatever country it is, that sounds like a winner to me, and it'll improve our economy. Now we're going to start mining some of our minerals, or maybe get oil out of the ground, which we'll all benefit from. The Chinese do it the right way. They come in the back door with money. Now, Americans use money too, but we got a crudier, such a word, way of doing it. Okay. China, Russia, United States, to a lesser extent UK. United Kingdom used to be a world power. It is called a kingdom for a reason. They were everywhere at one time, and they had ugly UK face. And India, when they controlled India, they were an ugly UK face. They made everybody bend to their will. You'll do it my way. End of story. Same way when indigenous people lived in the United States. We were really Christian about the whole thing. We took all the kids away and sent them to school so they learned how to speak English and get rid of their tribal traditions. Foreign policy, it goes back to human nature to some extent. I mean, it's grounded in something. But anyway, the bottom line, this is going on too long. I'm not in any way defending what Trump did. I think it's a horror show. It was ugly. It was mean. But it is the face. It is the true face. You're seeing, you got to see what is the true face of a foreign policy as the world sees America, the ugly Americans. Because we've been doing this a long, long time, okay? If you're horrified at what happened there, there's plenty to be horrified about our foreign policy. Seriously. Look around the world. We have our military stationed all over the globe. Right now, according to the powers that be, is China. is the biggest threat, because they're getting a big navy like the Japan have. They'll be able to control Malaysia and the Philippines, and Japan is worried shitless because who would defend Japan from a Chinese invasion, much less Taiwan? We're supposed to be the guys doing it, okay? Once again, back to Russia and Ukraine. Russia got nukes. Back on, I told you, George Bush policy. Foreign policy farther back. In the 70s, there was a thing called the Warsaw Pact, which was the equivalent of what we call NATO. It was various states had signed agreements that saying if one gets attacked, we all get attacked, we'll come to your rescue. The same was true for the United Soviet Socialist Republics. Those countries that were under that had formed what was called a Warsaw Pact. So if one got attacked, they would all respond. Well, the Warsaw Pact, because it's all densely packed in Europe now, you got NATO countries right up against Warsaw countries. So the borders there are kind of tense and tight all the time. But anyway, there was a big giant fear on the part of the U.S. that the Warsaw Pact was so militarily, overwhelmingly, not superior, but had mass numbers of everything. They came out of World War II. They ramped up their tank production. They didn't have to ship them across the sea, They just had to roll them from wherever it was in Russia into Germany or Lithuania or Poland or wherever it was, roads. There was fear that NATO and the United States would not be able to stop a Warsaw Pact invasion into Germany. That was the real key. We had West Germany, the Russians had East Germany, and they had lots of talk and rumors that they were going to take over all of Germany. The people who lived in West Germany really wanted to be Russian. They spoke German and they leaned toward Russian. They really wanted to be, that's what the Russians said, they really want to be part of us, just like East Germany is part of us now. They want to be like us. It's the same story that certain areas of Ukraine all spoke Russian and they wanted to be a part of Russia, and Ukraine said no. Okay. Anyway, there was this terrible Warsaw threat. Okay, so our foreign policy at that point, we publicly stated, we said to the world that if any sort of incursion into West Germany by anybody would be responded to with battlefield tactical nuclear weapons. These are 1 kiloton, 2 kiloton, very small, but effective to wipe out 5, 7, 10,000 men, or 100, 500 tanks at a whack. That's the only way you get rid of 500 tanks is a whack is with a tactical nuclear weapon. And we had those positioned in Germany at the time. That was our fallback position. If you guys attack, we're going to use these on the battlefield. Now the Russians, they responded and they said, first time you use a battlefield tactical nuclear weapon, it's all out war. We're going to launch our ICBMs everywhere we want. Okay? You get what I'm hearing and saying now? Okay? All right. At that point in time, we did not say anything in return. I.e., if the Russians used a battlefield tactical nuke, we would respond with all-out nuclear war. We never said that. Okay? So here we are in a situation now. Putin's got battlefield tactical nuclear weapons. If his losses get so extreme, he could pull the trigger on one of those and take out, 10, 20,000, a division, take out a mass area. It would, that size doesn't radiation kill a whole, it might 5, 10 square miles or something, you couldn't go in there again. The radiation would be too bad. But you could just drive around it and go other places. But the whole horror of a battlefield tactical nuke is a possibility. And Russia has those, and that's the reason everything is all balled up. We've been given resources, military, to the Ukrainians to fight what is really a proxy war for us. What do we get out of it? Trump said we didn't get anything out of it. That's not really true at all. Because all those weapon manufacturers in the United States, they got rid of their old stock. They got rid of the old stuff that we've had hanging around that we haven't had to use in a while. And what they get to do now, they get new contracts for new stuff. And the new stuff, they dole it out to Ukraine so we get to see how it works in an operational setting. Yeah, we do. I'm sure there's defense contractors in Ukraine stationed with various weapon systems there who are watching and taking notes and realizing, oh, we need to tweak this, we need to change that, we can do this and make it work. It's a damn mess. But I'm going to come back one more time. What you saw and all of its ugly face was our true American foreign policy. I expect that most of the world sees all the time. How we fix that? There is some level of once upon a time isolationism. That's how we got away from foreign policy. We're way over here, you can't really touch us, nothing you can do about it, so we're not going to get invaded by anybody, we're way across the ocean, it's impossible. Of course, that all changed with the invention of intercontinental ballistic missiles, which the big boys have. That all changed. Now we're within minutes or 30, 40 minutes of a nuclear explosion someplace on American soil. But I don't know. Looking forward is a complicated mess. I know there are people who say, why can't we just live together? And I totally agree with that. On the other hand, there have already been occasions where heating oil was not available to keep homes warm in the northern states. Vermont, everything up there was so old that it used heating oil for their furnaces, not coal or not natural gas, but heating oil. And it got short, and they were all freezing to death. And the government took some action, and we started importing foreign oil from Venezuela. You probably don't remember this. At one time, the Venezuelans were basically had started giving fuel oil to the United States to use. It was a goodwill gesture to use up north in those climates that were based on fuel oil for heat. Foreign policy is a crazy thing. Enough of this. It should have been in private. Is Trump a dictator, a bully? He is certainly a bully. He always has been a bully. And whether you saw it or not, every president has a bully side to him when it comes to foreign policy. And even state policy. You can say, well, if you want to think about it from the southern states' point of view, Lincoln was a big bully. We're going to force you. We're going to kill you so you don't do slavery anymore. We're going to kill you. That's what he said. We're going to take over your territory. You're not going to even, the states are not going to exist anymore. That particular aspect of human and leadership goes back as far as man existed. There's nothing new about this. What's new is how it should be played out. The Chinese are doing it the right way. I think Trump, as much as everybody hates the guy, and I wouldn't want to sit down with him for 5 minutes anywhere, it's economics. That's the way it's done. not militarily. You don't invade a country. That's not how you do it anymore. You do it like the Chinese do it. You lend money. You help them in some nice way. You build infrastructure for them. And then when they can't meet the loans, well, you can get more favorable agreement on their minerals like Trump is trying to get. His was a little in your face, but it's what's been going on around the world with the Chinese. They've been doing it forever. Well, since they got economics strong enough to. Anyway, that's enough of this. Nobody wants to hear Ron the talking head talk about it, but it helps me get it out. I know people are real upset about it. Welcome to reality, because what you saw is the real face of American foreign policy. The bully we have been basically since World War II and really after 9/11. Our terrorism is to be fought anywhere and everywhere around the world. Doesn't matter. You know how much collateral damage has been done around the world on our war on terrorism? How many innocent people have been killed by a drone strike that had nothing to do with terrorism? You don't hear about it in the news. We don't talk about it. It happens all the time. We can drop bombs from 35,000 feet in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we don't lose a single solitary American citizen. And if we happen to have a bomb inadvertently dropped on a mosque or something, that's the way, that's who we are. That's how we do things. That's enough for today. This is the 2nd of February, and that's enough for Uncle Ron.